Hello, and welcome to another episode of How to Be Human, where I explain about my series, How to Be Human. And I am sitting in the room of 5 fish tanks once again. And a little thing you don't know about some people who are recording things. Cooling equipment like swamp coolers and air conditioners can be quite loud. And so they go off, and I'm sitting here sweating. Alright, so you don't hear a giant jet engine going off while I'm recording this. And I just killed a few black widows, so deaths happened just prior to recording this. And speaking of black widows, this topic is titled Pure Belief About Religion. And wow, I've got to really work on those transitions. So, here we go. Pure belief. At the end of the last episode, I said, we are in a better place now to thrust off the idolatry of religious clutter. The idea of a God itself isn't ridiculous, but the packages they are presented in the form of religions, spoil the idea for many. Now, I don't aim to bring anyone to believe in a God or turn them away. It's their choice, whatever they do. But how one goes about this requires some analyzation. At the core, when we ask how the universe began, we have no clear answer, and so it is left up to what vantage a person cares to have. Belief in a God or gods free of idolatrous fluff, or to have no belief. Both ways of seeing things are equally sensible on that level. This is the way that things will go as we progress. But surely certain aspects will remain, for people need something to do. I recall throwing a birthday party for myself, but did not have enough to do for people who arrived. Music was playing and there were drinks, but there was a lack you could feel. And so in time, friends left earlier than expected. People gathering for a religious purpose are quite similar. They want the air to be filled with a sermon, candles to light, songs to sing, and communion to swallow. Asking them to gather and just love God for an hour would go over about as well as a party without sufficient munchies or a movie to watch. Something to keep them there. Consider that all of the fluff added to a religion dilutes the connection to the God, but it also keeps people participating. This is worthy to contemplate. I think of the bizarre stories of the Old Testament of the Bible. And as a writer, I have to wonder if the weirdness was embellished to keep the story being told. The story of Lot, so man's name is Lot. Even in church, we're like, parking lot? What kind of name is Lot? But his name is Lot, and his family... So his story, for instance, I imagine there was a writer who initially wanted to reinforce in people a few simple things, trusting God and being kind to guests. I imagine him traveling around, trying to convey this message in simple terms, but being largely ignored by passers-by in a public space. Perhaps next he added a bit of a story to work as an example from which people could use as a model for their own life. But this reasonable tale also left people yawning. On and on he embellished the story to greater ridiculousness until we have the version today in which Lot travels to Sodom, a city whose occupants instantly demand sex, sex, sex. And even when 2 angels come, they want to have sex with them. Imagine someone telling this story today for the first time in the middle of a shopping mall. It's clearly designed to turn heads. And how unremarkable are these angels that it would be possible to have sex with them. That leads us to understand that they had genitals and butts and weren't much different than humans. What reason would they have for genitals? Mating in heaven? And so, now that the people are listening to this storyteller, he does what they often do in these old stories. He raises the level of weirdness and has the Bible hero and or God guilty of morally corrupt behavior. Lot decides that the crowd having sex with these angels would be vile, so he does the quote moral thing and sends his virgin daughters to be gang raped instead. I'm sure many in ancient times would key in to how awful and nonsensical this decision was, thereby discussing it far more than his original pure moral tale. The point is, this spoiling of purity and diluting of the message is not needed by those who actually care. Believers of all religious traditions are more and more putting distance between themselves and stuff like this. By doing so, they are already part of a separate, improved religion. By doing so, we are judging what is called religion profane, and what is moving away more pure. And this is a sure sign that we have outgrown these old models of living, and one reason I knew I had to write this book series. I am firmly against evangelizing, but I write the parts that include religion with a person in mind who had been corralled into a certain mode of belief and wishes to know more, so to better judge what path to follow. In essence, we are within reach of the unity of those with belief and those who do not believe. Reasonable people do not care what another believes as long as their morals are sound. Both preferences are sensible when the idolatry of sludge, such as the story of Lot in Sodom, is cleansed from it. I said that I believe that gradually the various religions will become simpler and more sensible over time. This purifying of religions is championed by education. A new Jesus was born as soon as the invention of the printing press allowed people to have the 4 canon gospels before their faces. People's understanding of the Bible changed at that time, but not enough. If they had always had the books to read themselves, it would not have solidified into the simplistic Jesus most know. It would have been a different religion, as when Gnostics came to all sorts of conclusions in early Christianity. Between the time that non-Orthodox Christianities were snuffed out and the invention of the printing press, all people could know of Jesus was what the churches cared to share. This led to assumptions making up what people knew about the simplified Jesus. Alas, most believers are still focused on the pre-printing press Christ. Notice how I constantly warn about the awfulness of assuming things. If one puts the actual Bible to their face and reads, they get a much more human character. I originally wrote examples of this, but deleted them because I don't want to be pushy. So they are pointing out errors. Well, that's like, haha, it's not really. It's helping people out. But everyone's journey is best taken on when they make the decisions themselves. People are not likely to come to an understanding if it at all has the air of being pushy about it. So it's like, you're wrong. You're wrong. And then there's a shame factor. Some might feel, it's hard to ignore that shame factor. Like, you were wrong all along. You were incorrect for following this path all this time. And it's hard for them to feel any pride, even if they do feel like going off on a new path, if they find the original path was incorrect. So I don't want to be pushy and go, this and this and this is why you're wrong, unless it's a specific text clearly marked that it's for these people who are questioning, who are open to this kind of information. All right. So I write, people can accept a God built up of assumptions if they want to. Enough people will come to understanding of things like this as they arrive at what became possible with the printed Bible over 550 years ago. It's about time everyone in the 21st century arrive at what became widely available in the 15th century. From now on, people need to reassess their possibilities and the truth of things as soon as discoveries become available. And thank you.